Mr. Tiong.
Mr. Speaker, sir, as at 31st of December 2018, there are more than 300 persons with special needs employed in the public service. We do not track the number of officers who are recovering from mental health conditions. As an inclusive employer, the public service is committed to supporting the employment of persons with special needs to take on meaningful jobs in accordance with their abilities. Public agencies have been working closely with SG Enable to drive the hiring of persons with special needs in the public service. Our efforts include advertising suitable vacancies on SG Enable's job portal and participating in career fairs and programs such as job shadowing, internship and mentorship organized by SG Enable. Agencies can also tap on SG Enable Workplace Disability Inclusive Index, advisory and consultancy services, attend disability management workshops and training, or access SG Enable's online resources. Once these individuals are in our employment, public agencies also work with SG Enable to train and integrate them into the organizations through employee training, workplace modifications, and job redesign. For instance, MCCY had installed magnifier software and equipment to help 2 officers with special needs read documents on the computer screen and in hard copies more clearly and easily. MOM has also modified its workplace to improve wheelchair accessibility for an officer with limited physical mobility and provided a modified telephone and headset to enable her to make and receive calls with greater ease. Beyond tapping on the support schemes provided by SG Enable, the public service is also committed to providing opportunities for our officers with special needs to develop their skills and enhance their ability to perform work in different areas. One example is Vital, which employs a number of persons with special needs in the payroll and claims division. Initially, these officers were assigned duties in claims verification. Once they were familiar with claims verification, they were exposed to payroll processing and eventually were able to take on work in this area as well. Our officers with special needs are also given a fair chance to be considered for promotion if they demonstrate good performance and the ability to take on larger roles. In fact, more than 70% of the officers with special needs in the civil service have been promoted at least once. We hope that our commitment to supporting the employment of differently abled individuals and the positive experience that we have had doing so will encourage other employers to come on board in this effort. To this end, some of the public agencies like MOM and GovTech have worked with SG Enable to feature some of our officers with special needs in their outreach efforts.
Ms. Tiong.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for the clarification. I'm very heartened to hear that we have 300 differently abled persons within the public service. Can Minister share a little bit about some of the challenges that the public service may face in actually having more of such differently abled persons to join the service? Because I understand the service is 170,000 strong. And given that 300 is an amazing effort, but I'm wondering if there are challenges that is preventing the service to bring in more. That's one. The other, if you could share some of the successes as well, success stories of working with the differently abled within the service, so that also the other employers can also take heed. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, sir, on the challenges that the public service sector face, I think they are no different from any other private sector. Basically, we look for a job fit, and in line with your second question, the issue is really not to look at what the people cannot do, but to look at what the people can do, and then to design the job scope to fit it with the abilities of the people. So we say that we look at the abilities rather than the disabilities.
Ms. Zinispoa.
So I thank the Minister for his answer. I know he's also very supportive to this community. And I just want to take this opportunity to honor the good public service agencies that are actually very progressive and very inclusive as well, like National Library Board, Vital, the Ministry of Health Holdings, and so forth. So they've been doing good work. And I think I would ask Minister to, or the public service to share some of these success stories, as my fellow colleague Antia has mentioned. I want to ask Minister if he would consider that to put in perhaps a more ambitious target, because what we are seeing is really 365 out of more than 100,000 employees. And I know government is generally quite allergic to quotas in this aspect, but I'm hoping that at least the public service can set an example, a model, and perhaps install some targets. Example, maybe even 1% to 2% first, so that the rest of us in the country can actually look towards learning from what's possible. I feel strongly that when government puts its heart to something, it always gets done, and done fairly well. So I hope Minister will consider my suggestion for at least a target to hire persons with special needs, including those with mental health.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank Ms. Denise Phua for her suggestion. This is something that's close to my heart, and I've discussed this long and hard with my staff as to whether we should set a target. Today we don't set a target, but we've got something better than that. Let me explain. If we set a target, then you know how people usually try to meet the target. But I really don't want people to meet the target for the sake of meeting the target. I want people to look at the people based on what they can do, the focus on their abilities rather than the disabilities, and fit them into the job, redesign the job to fit the person rather than that. The best incentive for the public service to do this in a manpower crunch situation is this. We have a separate quota. In that sense, we don't count it against their manpower, the usual manpower headcount. So you can employ more people that is not under your headcount. And every agency has a great incentive to do this when there is a manpower tightness in the labour market.
Ms. Denise Phua.
I'm really heartened by Minister's sharing of that particular scheme. I think it's one of the best kept secrets, and I want to honor you for promoting that. But looking at the outcomes, which is about 365 out of more than 150,000 staff in the public service, I think even that scheme must have been facing some obstacles or barriers, to achieve the kind of targets or results that we would like to see. So I'd like to ask Minister to consider actually setting a bit of a target, and really also honoring, recognizing those agencies who leaders to the peers, who actually adopt inclusive employment practices for this community. I think that even if the public service starts by saying it might end up as tokenism, there'll be some who feel like they might as well make it worthwhile if they were doing it anyway. So I would seek a minister's favorable consideration to at least set a soft target. Thank you.
No, I think I didn't use that word, but Ms. Denise Phua used the word that we don't want tokenism. In fact, that's not what we want. We want people to really focus on the abilities of what this community can provide. So today, actually, the public service it's not a secret, as in nobody knows about it. Actually, they all know about it. But I think what we can encourage people to do is to see the examples of those who have embraced the community with special needs and how they have played a constructive and positive part in this whole journey. And that will encourage more people to come on board. Today, I look at the numbers, they are not under any constraints. In fact, they are free from the manpower constraints. They have not hit anywhere near the, if you like, the pool of available quota that we have made available. This is over and above what the usual manpower quotas will be. So I think there's great scope for us to do more, and I'll take your suggestions that we can definitely do more to promote good practices and share some of the best practices in many of these jobs available. I personally, I visited some of the call centers, including private ones, where people think that people with special needs are less efficient. But actually it's not true, because sometimes when we have a disability in one of our faculties, we become much more focused in another, and they end up, in fact, even more productive than what we call normal people. So I think there's some stories that we can share to encourage our people to embrace them. At the same time, we all need to take some effort to redesign some of the jobs in our respective organizations. So my assurance to the public is that for the public service at least, they have the latitude to go forth and they are not constrained by the manpower quotas in the usual sense.
Ms. Denise, I'll permit this only if it's different from what the points you've made earlier.
Thank you so much, Minister. I think we are sharing from the same side, so I don't think it's an argument, but really, how far do we go? I think besides the good scheme that you have mentioned just now, I wonder if you could also install a recognition program. When I was in some
I think you made that point earlier.
countries, there were actually in the public school system, for example, inclusive schools were actually recognized, and the schools who got awarded, I really feel like they really make a difference. And I don't know if that culture, that feature of culture, can be installed in the public service as well. That's not just having an extra headcount, but it's really doing something really right and doing it well, and that they can be recognized and even be seen as models. So organizations like National Library Board, Ministry of Health Holdings, Vital and so forth, they're really doing a good job. I think we should uphold them, raise them, let them be recognized, and others in the public service and also in the rest of the sectors can learn from them.
Ms. Anthea Ong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Minister Chan earlier mentioned that you don't actually have the information on persons in recovery from mental health conditions within the public service. I may be wrong, and I stand corrected. I understand that the public service still requests for a declaration of medical history, which includes mental health conditions. And so I wonder if that could also be a reason why that information is not known, and whether the public service is also looking to prohibit that practice if it's actually still going on. Thank you. Can I also take this opportunity to formally apologize for being late to the Speaker and also to SPS Faisal? Sorry.
Let me clarify. When many of the things are medical in confidence, so when we ask people to let the organization know, it's not with the view of a punitive action. It is in fact to make sure that if there are some special needs, the organization should be aware of, so that we can better take care of the person. But if, let's say, the person, for whatever personal reasons, decides not to declare medical in staff confidence questions, I think we can understand that. But I also want to reassure the House that it's not for punishment or to blacklist anybody. In fact, if anybody declares a medical condition, it's so that we can better take care of the person, and that we will not unnecessarily stress the person beyond the point of their capabilities. Right. Just on Ms. Denise Hua, just to follow up on that, I agree with you that we can do more to help our people be aware of the opportunities and the potential of the special needs community. And I think the greatest reward for our public servants who embrace such things is because they know deep in their hearts that they are doing the right thing. They are upholding the kind of values that we exemplify. And this is much more important to them than any tangible physical awards. And I think that should be how we go forward as a society. It's the kind of values that we want to express rather than tangible rewards per se.
Associate Professor Walter Tessera.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I thank the Minister for his reply. I think the concern that people may have when filling in these forms to declare their health conditions to their supervisors is that they are concerned they may be perceived as perhaps not up to the task if they declare a pre-existing or past mental condition, and therefore that may affect their promotion opportunities, advancement opportunities. So what can the public service do to assure individuals that this should not be a concern, that they should declare everything so that they can be appropriately managed, and that they will not be at any risk of not advancing as far as in their careers as other people? Thank you.
The greatest assurance that I've just spoken, I'm the Minister in charge of Public Service, and I tell everyone that when we ask people for their medical condition, it's not to blacklist anybody or will this in any way limit their progression. In fact, we want the person to be safe. We want the workplace that they work in to be safe, so that we need to understand their medical conditions and we see how we can help them in that sense. And I think that assurance comes from me down to every level in the public service. In fact, the safety of the individual, the safety of the team and the crew is of utmost concern to us when they conduct any jobs. And we always teach our people, even from my own organization that I grew up in the SAF, that we must make sure that we know ourselves, know the capabilities of ourselves, know the capabilities of our team members, so that we do not put each other in danger, so that we can all accomplish the mission together. And I think that philosophy remains, that we should not see the declaration of medical condition as a blacklisting exercise or in any way impeding the progress, but it is an exercise to make sure that we know the capabilities of the respective members, the limitations of the respective members, so that we can put everyone's potential to good use.
Ms. Denise Paul. Only with a fresh perspective,
Yes.
please.
Minister is usually very analytical, perceptive, and strategic. So maybe I want to ask Minister what he thinks are the factors behind the dismal employment rate of persons with special needs, including for mental health, in our public service.
I would put it down to a job fit. The job fit requires us to understand the capabilities of the individuals concerned, and the job fit also requires the organizations to have a clear understanding of what the individual is capable of. From my experience in MSF, it's not just in the public service sector alone. I think many organizations, we can do much better in our effort to try to understand the capabilities, the abilities of the people that we are talking about, and not the disabilities of the people that we are talking about. So that's the first part. The second part, it does, and it is true, that organizations will need to take on a bit of work, responsibility to redesign some of the jobs, from the type of tools that are being used to the workflow that is being used, and that requires a bit of effort. And that is another area that we can do much more together with SG Enablers help to see how we can redesign the job processes. And sometimes it's not so difficult, then it's not as difficult as we imagine it to be. So I think these are the two key factors as to why it is so. The third factor that I have come across is this: we also need to be able to do a much better job in helping our people with disability to profile what they can do, to bring out the best in them. And this is something that we all can help together with SG Enable. So these are my own experiences of how we can lift the numbers of people with special needs in employment.
Ms. Anthea Ong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Minister Chan, for giving the assurance to all that the practice of the declaration of medical history, including mental health condition, is not one that is exclusive, but one is inclusive. However, in the job market, generally, that's been seen as discriminating to a large extent. And it's both coming from a stigma that's in society, as well as the self-stigma of the individual. Would Mr. Chan be open to considering not having a practice as such, but to then, once the candidate or applicant is employed, to then have the human resources team to work with the person to give him or her support once he and she comes forward to declare their conditions? Thank you.
So first, I reiterate, the exercise is one for the safety of the team and the crew, and also to bring out the best from each. So I think the correct way for us to do it is that when someone comes into a job, the HR will work with them confidentially to see whether there are any limitations that the person might want to highlight, so that the HR know how best to put the person into the correct fit. Because it will be quite bad for us to put someone into a job that demands something from the person which is beyond what the person is capable of doing. And we should be very careful to do that for the safety of the individual and the safety of the organization. So I think these are things best we work confidentially between the HR and the respective individuals. But I just want to say that nobody should feel that by revealing your medical record, you will in any way impede your career progression. the revelation or the discussion of one's medical history with the HR is for the purpose of the safety of the individual, so that the organization can extend the necessary help and design the appropriate job scope for the individual. And that is my assurance to the House.